Members of Poland's border defense movement have announced that they will file complaints with the prosecutor's office against the German police. For several months, the movement has been organising volunteers to monitor crossings on the Polish-German border. While Germany introduced border controls in September 2023, Poland's government, led by Donald Tusk, has yet to implement controls on the Polish side. The purpose of this complaint is to determine the role of the German police in the events that took place on the Polish-German border and which were recorded by our volunteers. This concerns the unlawful transfer of illegal immigrants to Poland. German authorities have already confirmed several thousand so-called rejections. Germany has the option of designating a so-called border zone. This zone extends approximately 30 kilometers into Germany. In my opinion, it is sometimes understood to be a little deeper. This means that in this area, any person who does not have documents confirming the legality of their stay in Germany may be rejected. Volunteers from the border defense movement are convinced that German authorities are aware that the migrants they are dropping off in Poland did not arrive in Germany via Poland. We had a few cases where illegal immigrants from Africa who were questioned stated that they had arrived via the Mediterranean Sea and had no documents. They said that these documents were taken from them by the German authorities and that they had then been taken directly to the Polish border by German police officers. Last week, suggestions appeared in the German media that members of the border defense movement were human traffickers. Die Welt directly accused those defending against the illegal influx of immigrants from Germany of human trafficking. The German federal police have launched criminal proceedings against the two unknown men wearing reflective vests on charges of attempted human trafficking. Attempts to establish their identities through the German-Polish Cooperation Center in Świecko have been unsuccessful. In the same article, in the subsequent paragraphs, it is clearly stated that the police investigation was inconclusive. That is, all suspicions or accusations directed at the border defense movement proved to be unfounded. Despite admitting that there were no grounds for accusing Polish volunteers, Die Welt deliberately used terms such as human trafficking, investigation and suspicions to invoke negative attitudes among the German public towards Polish citizens guarding the border. And it is thanks to their activities that Poles are learning how Chancellor Friedrich Merz is fulfilling his election promises and getting rid of the unwanted immigrants imported by his predecessor, Angela Merkel. It is in Germany's interest to get rid of those people who are a problem for them. They are not getting rid of highly qualified specialists, but those who came to Germany to take advantage of social benefits or to engage in criminal activity. It is obvious that this is contrary to Poland's national interest. Social resistance against the manipulation of the German narrative about allegedly legal rejections of immigrants will now take place in a formal way. Reports of crimes committed by the German police on the Polish-German border may eventually prompt a response from the Polish government, and the only effective defense against German immigration policy may be to seal Poland's western border. Air superiority and significant losses among the enemy ranks. Israel claims to have destroyed one-third of Iran's ballistic missile launchers. The exchange of fire between Tehran and Tel Aviv can now essentially be called open warfare. Last night, Israel carried out further bombings of the Iranian capital. Government buildings were reportedly hit. Iran, in turn, continues to shell Israeli refineries. This is a propaganda video published by the Iranian army. Social media accounts announce that the worst is yet to come, for Israel, of course. Tel Aviv, on the other hand, argues that it is Tehran that is losing its strike capability. The effects, in the form of a rapidly growing number of buildings reduced to rubble throughout Israel, do not confirm this for the time being. The fact is, however, that in the air, the lions of the south are basically doing whatever they want. We can now say that we have achieved complete air superiority over Tehran's airspace. We are attacking in real time Iranian cells that are firing rockets at the state of Israel and at our aircraft. The ability to close the circle, which we have seen so far in Gaza, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria, is now also happening in Iran. Israel claims that it has so far managed to destroy over 120 ballistic missile launches, which has significantly reduced the frequency of attacks. The Israeli hunt for Iranian commanders is also continuing.
We have gone so far and eliminated essentially all the senior commanders in the Iranian regime. And we will continue operating until we feel that we are able to remove this existential threat from Israel.
The latest victim, after Army and Defense Ministry commanders, is said to be the head of the Iranian intelligence. According to Israeli authorities, the campaign is aimed solely at the Iranian army and nuclear program. Unlike the criminal regime of Iran, which attacks our citizens and comes to kill children and women, we say to the citizens of Tehran, run away, and then we act. We are on the path to victory, and this will be achieved thanks to our heroic pilots, our wonderful ground crews, who are also doing an amazing job. The problem is that the harder Israel strikes, the stronger the Iranian response. We are warning the Israelis in advance for the coming days. Leave the occupied territories because in the near future they will certainly become uninhabitable. Despite international pressure, neither side seems willing to de-escalate the situation for now. What's more, it seems that the major global players are watching the Middle East from the sidelines for the time being. The situation in the Middle East is to be the main topic of the G7 leaders meeting in Canada. The Americans were to unofficially refuse Israel's request to join active military operations while calling on Iran to negotiate.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens, but sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
This refers to the nuclear agreement with Iran, which was supposed to signal its readiness for talks through diplomatic channels. However, the signals from Tehran are contradictory, as the regime representative said over the weekend that the negotiations are pointless and that Iran is ready for a long war. A justified and powerful response from the Islamic Republic of Iran will make the enemy regret its foolish actions. As our great Imam said, whenever the flag falls from the hands of one commander, another capable commander will pick it up and enter the battlefield. In addition to military action, Israel is also conducting a psychological operation, mainly through social media, calling on the citizens of Iran to rise up against the Ayatollah regime.
The wave of protests in Spain may sweep away Pedro Sanchez's socialist government. At least that is the mood among the public. Crowds took to the streets. In cities and towns, people shouted out their anger. We are protesting against this regime, this damned corrupt gang of thieves. Pedro Sanchez and his ilk think they can do whatever they want, that they are above the law, but we will not allow it. The whole country has had enough of them, although the discredited and corrupt authorities are still clinging to their positions, and people say it outright. It's a mafia. We came here to see if Pedro Sanchez will leave once and for all, or if we have to go after him, because this man is corrupt. He is a liar. He has no right to be the prime minister. The socialists, who have been in power for 7 years, have led, among other things, to an economic crisis, rising unemployment, the madness of left-wing liberal ideologies, and a decline in security by accepting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. Spain is in the midst of a housing crisis and an uncontrolled influx of tourists. And of course, there is a complete lack of trust in the authorities. And these are just some of the problems. This government has destroyed everything: politics, state institutions, authority, civil liberties. It has replaced them with corruption, its own filth and lies. But the Spanish people will not remain silent. Spaniards have been shaken by a huge influx of illegal immigrants. Rape, assault, theft, and car arson have become everyday occurrences here, and the socialist government pretends that there is no problem. We don't need immigrants to work now. We need jobs for the locals. We have to take care of our land, our people, our children, not illegal immigrants. It is important for Spaniards to have more children because due to the mass influx of immigrants, we will soon lose our identity and nothing will remain of us here. The residents of the Canary Islands are well aware of this. Between January and May alone, almost 11,000 illegal immigrants arrived on the islands. We can't cope anymore. It's too much for such a small island. This is our land, and we live here in fear and bear the enormous costs of this whole situation. The economic crisis and unemployment have particularly affected young people, who also have problems renting apartments because most of them are reserved for tourists, hence the demands for the authorities to restrict tourist traffic. The government is bringing poverty upon us by exploiting the influx of tourists. Prices have gone up and our salaries have gone down. There are no apartments available. The authorities care more about tourists than their own citizens. All this at a time when Pedro Sanchez's socialist government is losing public trust. Corruption and moral scandals are coming to light, such as the one involving the prime minister's closest associate, the already dismissed transport minister José Luis Abalos, who took exclusive prostitutes on business trips at the taxpayers' expense, of course. But that's not all. Abalos is also involved in corruption. He allegedly helped circumvent sanctions imposed on the dictatorial government of Venezuela. I am here in connection with the police investigation into José Luis Abalos. First of all, I would like to ask the citizens for forgiveness. But it is too late for remorse. Spain is in the midst of a series of crises. The socialists have lost face and public trust, but they have already announced that they will not step down until the end of their term in 2027.
Warsaw's Pride Parade. It may seem joyous and colorful. One word predominates.
Jestem tu, bo wspieram miłość. Miłość najważniejsza.
Miłość nie wyklucza.
However, look just a bit closer, and the atmosphere changes radically.
Czysty, świetny miesiąc dumy.
Chcemy, żeby proces tranzycji był na żądanie, szybko, dostęp do hormonów był refundowany.
Satanists also appeared at the Pride Parade. One of the people, who referred to themselves as aborciel, wore a mask with the baby's legs for horns.
Ja jestem aborcjel. Nie chcecie mnie w tym kraju, ale może powinniście mnie zaakceptować.
On a banner, a group of people promoted the organization Global Order of Satan. As we read on their website, their goal is to develop satanic ideals and the cult of the self.
Wzywanie szatana, chociaż początkowo
Calling on
wydaje się
Satan,
zwykłą
although at first it
igraszką,
seems like a mere
zabawką,
game, a joke.
to po czasie
After a
okazuje
while,
się,
it turns
że
out that there is a
przychodzi
debt to be
spłata
paid, and the evil spirit is very capable to ensure that the person repays their debt. Among the demands of Satanist organizations are the liberalization of abortion laws and the separation of church and state. These 2 points also come up very often in conversations with people from the LGBT community. Both tendencies, both movements have the same goal, which is simply to tear the living God out of human life. They are certainly hindered in this by Christian civilization and religious practices, which in Poland, compared to countries such as Western Europe, are still going strong.
Pomodlę się za pana. A jak patrzysz sobie... Nie, prawda. Nie śmiej. Naprawdę.
Nie śmiej się za mnie modlić, powiedziałem.
Among the crowd at this year's Pride Parade was none other than Rafał Trzaskowski, mayor of Warsaw and former candidate for president of Poland, who, during the election campaign, worked tirelessly to distance himself from symbols like the rainbow flag. Since his chances to ever become president in the future are slim, he no longer has a reason to avoid LGBT-related events. Despite everything, on Saturday, Trzaskowski emphasized that Warsaw is a tolerant and diverse city. Remember that for many, many years, I have been saying that we are building Warsaw as an open, tolerant city, where the values that are so important to us are not only valued, but also promoted. Throughout the presidential election campaign, he tried to win the votes of Catholics, whom he needed to court if he wanted any chance to win the presidency. It is a kind of signature, an ideological stamp of the worldview of the circles that Rafał Trzaskowski belongs to. I don't think that the majority of Poles who voted for Rafał Trzaskowski, which is almost 50% of all votes in the end, were aware of the man's actual opinions. The mayor of Warsaw attends pride parades yearly. It has become a platform not only for proclaiming ideological slogans, but also for open provocation, targeting values held by millions of Poles, for example, by the presence and parading of Satanists. Love, in this context, is nothing more than a pretext, a pretty word used to just barely obscure a dirty, explicitly political game.